Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're digging into human intelligence, but probably not the kind you first think of.
Right, we're not just talking IQ scores or, even the usual lists of soft skills or emotional intelligence.
No, our source material today dives into something much deeper, something often unseen. It actually describes it as a kind of, well, a tectonic force. Really powerful.
That's a great way to put it. Think about actual tectonic plates deep underground. There's all this silent grinding, pushing, immense pressure building up.
Totally invisible on the surface most of the time.
Exactly, until suddenly there's a rupture, an earthquake. The source argues human intelligence, or at least a crucial part of it, works just like that, silently shaping things until boom.
So this isn't about what's on paper, like a CV or what someone says in a meeting necessarily. It's about the pressure underneath.
Precisely. It's the force behind those moments where maybe someone's mask suddenly drops or a long-standing alliance just cracks apart.
Or like when you realize the real decision wasn't made in the meeting room at all, but somewhere else, driven by things nobody talked about.
That's the tectonic effect the source points to. The hidden shifts driving the visible outcomes.
Okay, wow. That sounds powerful, but also really hard to grasp. How do you even start to understand a force like that if it's mostly silent?
Well, the source does offer a framework. It calls it the fifth element of the grammar of intelligence. Sounds a bit grand, maybe, but it's basically 5 layers.
5 layers, right.
Yeah, 5 interacting layers that make up this human undercurrent. They operate mostly beneath the surface, building that pressure.
All right, let's unpack those. What are these 5 layers and how do they build up?
Okay, so layer 1, the foundation, is intuition, that primal spark, the gut feeling you get before you can explain why.
That immediate sense, like walking into a room and just feeling the tension, even if everyone's smiling.
Exactly that. It's what's felt, often not said. The source calls it the first subtle vibration.
Okay, so you get that intuitive hit. What's next? How does it become more concrete?
That brings us to layer 2, perception. This is where you start actively, or maybe even passively, reading the signs.
Like noticing things.
Yeah, the subtle stuff, the silences that hang too long, the micro expressions, maybe weird body language, that ambient tension you mentioned. This is where the source says the first tremors become noticeable if you're paying attention.
So picking up on the little signals that something's going on beneath the surface, like maybe someone always looks away when a certain name comes up.
Exactly that kind of thing. You're translating the feeling into observable data points, even tiny ones.
And then I assume the brain tries to make sense of it all.
That's layer 3, cognition. This is your mind working to structure the information you're perceiving, connecting the dots, trying to justify that initial intuition, maybe reframing things.
Building a narrative in your head based on the feeling and the signals. Okay, they look away when X is mentioned. Maybe there's some history there, that sort of thing.
Precisely. You're processing, making hypotheses about those tremors you're sensing and perceiving.
Okay, intuition, perception, cognition. But there's usually a big driver behind the scenes, right? Something less logical.
Absolutely crucial. Layer 4, emotion.
The source calls this the amplifier. Things like fear, ambition, trust, anxiety. They might not be obvious, but they're like these powerful, silent waves.
Fueling the whole process.
Or disrupting it. Emotion can supercharge intuition. It can bias your perception. It definitely shapes how your cognition frames things. It adds immense, often hidden energy to the mix.
Got it. That silent wave building pressure. Okay, so we have intuition, perception, cognition, emotion, all churning away underneath. What's the final step? What happens when the pressure gets too much?
That leads to layer 5, action. This is the visible part, the rupture. The decision that finally gets made, the partnership that breaks, the sudden strategic pivot. It's the breaking point, the outcome you can actually see, resulting from all that hidden activity.
So the action is the surface event, the earthquake, triggered by the shifting layers beneath. You got it. That's the model. And the source emphasizes these layers aren't static. They're constantly shifting, interacting, redrawing the lines of power and influence in real time.
Especially in high-stakes situations, I imagine. Like boardrooms, negotiations.
Exactly. Takeovers, key hires. The source argues that just looking at the standard data, the financials, the resumes, completely misses this vital human undercurrent.
Because you're only seeing the surface, the potential action not the forces building towards it.
Precisely. And that's the practical takeaway. The goal isn't just to understand this after the fact. It's to learn to read these layers, the intuition, perception, cognition, emotion, before the action happens.
To anticipate the shifts.
Yes, to see the pressure building before the rupture. The source suggests this moves you from just making a good decision based on the obvious stuff.
To making the right bet, because you actually understand the deeper human dynamics at play.
That's the idea. Reading the ground truth, not just the surface report.
It really changes how you might think about interactions, doesn't it? Understanding these silent shifting layers.
It definitely offers a different lens.
So maybe a thought to leave you with from this deep dive.
Yeah.
How much of this human undercurrent are you actually reading in the situations around you? Think about it. What potential shifts, what actions might you anticipate if you started consciously tuning into these 5 layers?
Yeah.
The intuition you feel, the subtle signals you perceive, how your mind pieces together, the emotions possibly driving it all?
It's something to consider in, well, pretty much every interaction.
Absolutely. That wraps up our deep dive today on the hidden tectonic forces of human intelligence.